Mr. Rothwell, isn't it? Is Biz not joining us this evening?
I have not, I didn't receive a confirm back from her, so I'm assuming no.
Jeremy, does that go to you?
Can you hear? If need be, I led the last meeting when Biz was not here. If need be, I can do it if need be.
I think you did a fine job, Jeremy.
Okay. So I can call the meeting to order. It looks like we had a quorum of 3 individuals. Is that correct? Am I seeing it? Max, Jennifer, and myself?
You do have 3. I don't believe that 3 acts as a quorum for you, but that's fine. We're going to proceed anyway.
Okay. Well, one question about that, Bill. Well, I spoke to Barton Ross on Monday. He was actually in town. Barton is living in Easton.
Okay.
So I believe Barton is no longer a member. So I don't, although I guess even if he's not here, I guess that still requires a quorum of 4. But, okay.
Right, and Jeremy, I don't have the regulations in front of me, but I do think that Historic Preservation Commission may have a different residency requirement than some of the other boards. I don't think you have to be necessarily a resident. I can check on that.
Okay. When I spoke to Barton, Barton said he was not able to continue serving.
Oh, okay, so that's a different story. Okay, I understand.
Yes, so he's living in Easton, and I don't believe he's able to serve. I mean, please reach out to him, but that's what he told me last week.
I certainly will. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes of the April the 6th meeting?
Yes.
Is there any corrections or revisions that anybody has, or any discussion?
I have none at the time, Jeremy.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
And I'll second.
Okay, call a vote. Do I hear a vote?
Aye.
I hereby saying aye. Okay. All right. That's been approved. And I believe we actually have a quorum now, Melinda.
You do. Yes, thank you.
Okay. So the application for review, the John Kennedy House, certificate of appropriateness application, installation of solar panels, 11943 Augustine Herman Highway, Kennedyville, Maryland. Bill, would you like to present the application?
Happy to do so. The application before you, I think is best explained by the proposed site drawing. The house is located along August Herman Highway. Because the highway is at an angle, the property is not orthogonal with the coordinates of the compass. It's at about a 45-degree angle, and so the proposal is to put the solar panels along one side of the building on the 2 faces of the gable roof, and also I believe it's a small shed roof in the back. So it doesn't extend across a face of a roof, it is actually divided across 3 sections of roofing. So it is technically visible from the street, and these sort of matters require your approval because this is a locally designated building. We did expect I'm sorry, yes, ma'am.
Oh, go ahead, keep going.
I was just going to say, we did expect that the owner might be present, but I don't think the owner has made it, so.
Go ahead, Max. I want to hear
just
from
have
you,
one,
actually.
One question. Is the efficiency, is the layout because of efficiency or because of structure?
You know, I don't know, but I think the layout is based on solar exposure. That was my assumption.
Because they have most of their panels on the southeast side.
Right.
And I'm just wondering if they're going to get that much loss, if any, of production of electricity by putting that set of panels that's on facing Augustine Herman Highway on the back of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm in agreement, Max. And we just Delaware. I work in Delaware. We just had a training from, and it's actually from the Maryland Association of Historic District Commissions, and this was one of the things brought up in his training. No home is is exactly on the axis, or it's very rare.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So in this particular instance, I don't see how requiring it on the rear of the rear slope of the house, which is, still has a decent southern exposure, how that would inconvenience the property owner. I'm not seeing anything that states as to why. It's not like it would be shielded by trees or anything of that nature, from my understanding.
Right.
So I would argue that it is not in keeping with the Secretary of the Interior standards.
I absolutely agree. I just, solar panels on a roof, to me as an architect, are pretty gruesome as it is. But in this case, it's particularly painful.
Yeah, so but what do the other board members think, Jennifer and Melinda? I'm looking up for the exact set of standards. I'm looking up for the section of those standards.
Yeah. Based on especially Max's take on some of the architectural functions of this, if it doesn't have a requirement to be on that section and then there are alternatives, then I agree with your conversation.
I would too. I mean, aesthetically, slapping some solar panels on the front of the house. What's the age of the house? I might have missed that in the application.
It's like an 1860 house, if I recall. Looking at it, I believe, right?
I mean, I looked it up in Kent County. It's 1920, but half the houses in Kent County are listed as 1920. So I figured it's a lot older than that.
If this is the house I'm thinking of, this is a 3-story, right, Max? Jennifer?
Yes, and it says it's a mid-19th century.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought this was like an 1850, 1860. Is this the White House or the brick house? I'm trying to picture it going
The white.
down.
The
This
white
is the white one.
The
Okay.
white, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If the exposure is
Aesthetically,
going to
yeah,
be,
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm still looking up the
I mean-
standard, but just give me 1 second. But go ahead, continue the discussion.
I
Fine,
just,
section.
my initial thoughts were that the loading on those 2x4 rafters was going to be too much to put all the panels on one side. But even with that, it could probably be braced a bit too.
Yeah, that was my only question, Max, was that they wanted to distribute the load to equal the load out between the rafters. But
Right.
I was hoping the applicant would be here,
Yeah.
because that would be the only legitimate reason, in my view, for doing this.
Max, if you've seen these before with regard to any solars on old houses, have you seen anything as far as the detriment of the application of all of the hardware on an existing elder roof and what it does long term? I was having a conversation with somebody recently about that, and I wasn't sure quite what the impact would be.
Yeah.
So
Well,
they're using different hardware from whenever the roof was put on, if it's old, and then we're going to go
Right.
put in all this new hardware, and how does that impact the roof?
Well, they're going to be punching holes directly through the metal roof, mounting brackets.
Yeah.
Those are going to be going into those 2x4 rafters. It's never good when you punch holes in a roof, but
No.
This is basically the only way they could probably do this because of the type of metal roof they've got on there. And I'm sure, you know, in the long run, it won't be great for the house.
Yeah, so I'm reading the technical preservation brief from the National Park Service. You know, solar panels installed on a disturbed property in a location that cannot be seen from the ground will generally meet the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. Conversely, an installation that negatively impacts the historic character of the property will not meet the standards.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yep, exactly. And let me go here. They have something specific for cross. Well, wait a minute. This is a gabled house. Let's see.
And Jeremy, based on that statement, does that mean essentially that if they could locate it someplace different, that it would not change the front aesthetic part
Yeah,
of the
if
house?
it would, if
And
it's
as long as
located
it's
to the
hidden
rear.
in a different section.
Yep.
So we don't have to cite concerns in the case of our conversation about an impact on the hardware onto a house that old, but as long as it's in the back, it meets the standards, which means our opinion of the hardware is secondary.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, they have to meet the building code for, you know, they have to be. Max, am I correct by stating that? Because I haven't done enough of these.
Yeah,
They would have to meet any
calculated the
building
load.
code. The
Right,
load
they
requirements,
calculated
right?
the load that's going to be placed on the roof rafters, and they're saying that it's acceptable.
Hmm.
Now, once you place the other set of panels on there, I don't know if they have to re-examine that or not. They might have to.
As
I'm
a
just
matter
not
of
sure.
curiosity, sorry, Max.
Go
As a
ahead.
matter of curiosity, can we ask the contractor what that stuff looks like as far as the weight load that was approved? So we have a better idea ongoing of what that weight looks like?
Oh, they've got it on here, on
Is
the
it on?
drawing.
Okay, I don't have it in front of me.
packet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
There's a diagram that shows the layout, and there's a 36-inch fire pathway across the roof surface.
Yep.
But there seems to be plenty of room left on that back roof, and even space on the lower roof, further back of the building.
Well, the lower roof, I believe, is
Thank you.
generally north facing. Because it's a cross gable. Is that what I'm looking at?
It's going
Oh, is it a cross gable? Okay.
I believe the lower roof in the rear is the shed is a cross gable, so I can understand them not wanting to do that.
Got
But
it. Yeah. I see it. Yeah.
but
We have some late breaking news from Carla. She's just zipped into the room.
oh, okay.
Hello. So I was listening just because I was curious, and I gathered from the discussion that maybe you had some incomplete information. This structure is a duplex, and solar panels are going across the entire front, actually, I guess across all kind of 4 faces of the roofs. Would that be right?
4 faces, okay.
Well, there's a peaked roof in the front.
Right.
Front and back of that, and then the peaked
Oh, and the
roof.
peak in the back, got it.
And the
Those
peak in the
4.
back,
Got
yep.
it. So they're actually,
So
so
they're putting panels across the entire roof?
Correct.
so these pictures are inaccurate.
So if
These are not correct then?
the pictures you have, double it on the other half of the structure. Because
Wow.
it's a duplex, and so the panels are being assigned to each half of the building.
Okay.
Well,
So
that doesn't-
I
doesn't
just want to
help.
I want to make sure that I'm clear in terms of what I'm looking at. So on see the sheet number here.
TV1.
People,
Say, all of the drawings that we have that were submitted all show them only on one half of the building. So this is literally a drafting error by the applicant?
No, it's 2 permits, and you only got the information for one of the permits.
Thank you, okay.
the property I'm seeing it looks like it's actually this is even though it's a duplex, it's one parcel. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. All right.
And the solar company brought it in as 2 permits, and I think that's because for their purposes, they need to assign the panels and electricity to each unit.
Okay,
And so that's why we were accommodating them and doing it as 2 permits, and you accidentally received information for only one of those permits.
okay, all right, well, that does make sense.
Thank you.
However, I don't think that changes I don't think that would change our interpretation of the.
Probably doesn't, but I just wanted to make sure you knew what was going
No,
on.
I appreciate that, Carla. That's an important piece of information, and I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
I'm seeing on the PD1 plan, there is an additional building which has a roof that faces, looks like it faces southwest.
Is that a freestanding garage?
Is that the
I believe so.
garage?
I think that's a garage.
Yep.
Is there any reason they can't use that roof?
I think that would be up to the solar company.
Okay.
It may not be an electrified building.
Or it may not be
Well, that-
sturdy enough, or have the right kind of roof, or
Right.
too many
Right.
trees,
All
or,
those things. Yeah, I would say that the Secretary of the Interior standards are relatively clear in terms of what, in terms of the approval for solar panels on a dwelling like this, or I should say a series of dwellings since it's a duplex. And solar panels are not advised on, a side gabled, the front face of the side gabled roof.
And
So
clearly,
that's a-
given
ahead,
that they
sorry.
were going to put panels across the entire roof, there is no issue with structure.
Yep. So,
Pretty good.
so I will entertain, Bill, do we have to entertain a motion to approve it as presented first, or can we present our own motion? Do you have a,
You can move whatever is your instructions to us. I mean,
Okay.
you are moving on a certificate of appropriateness application, so I would just, phrase it around that.
Max, do you want to make or I'll entertain a motion from either of the three of you, but the way that I'm interpreting the Secretary of the Interior standards is that we would issue or recommend approval for a certificate of appropriateness conditioned on the front face of the side gabled roof not being included.
I think
So if
that's,
somebody would like to make a motion to that effect, or would like to do another
Yeah,
motion.
I don't know if I have to repeat that motion that you just said, Jeremy, but that,
The chair shouldn't be making the motion, so
the
I'm
motion
just,
to follow the standards that are set forth by that we recommend that the panels all be moved to the rear of the house. I also would want to see an updated plan
Yeah.
be provided to the committee.
okay. Do we have a second?
A second, Mrs. Jennifer?
Okay. Do we have any discussion?
My only other comment would be to get a better sense of what's being mounted on the side of the building. They're indicating a series of equipment panels on that face.
I'm trying to get street view. Just give me 1 second. So I'm trying to get a better transitioning between screens.
There's the electric service is on that face of the building right now. But apparently they're going to be putting up quite a bit more equipment mounted on the wall there.
Jeremy, do we know if is this part of the Delmarva Power program for installing solar, or is this just a completely separate project?
That's a question for staff.
I'm not able to respond to that question, I don't know. I apologize.
In many cases, this is something that, homeowners get homeowners get stuff from solar companies all the time. That's what it tends to be in my jurisdiction when I don't review the building permits, but I do occasionally get these.
The company that put this together is out of California.
Which there are community solar standards in the state of Maryland, so which gives homeowners the ability to do this. So I'm guessing those are the standards that are allowing them to come forward. Max, what are you referring to on the side of the building? I'm trying to decipher that through these plans.
Can you go back to the PV1 sheet?
Yep, PV1. Okay, 1 second. Okay.
If you look at the plan at the front roof section, there's a little diagram and then a blow up. That's kind of projected
MSP,
down.
UMSD.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a whole series of electrical equipment pieces.
Carla, is Carla still there?
Carla has left.
Oh, okay.
But that detail is going to be probably repeated on both sides of the house.
Both sides. That's what I was
Yeah.
guessing.
Yeah, the plans for the second permit are identical to these, it's just that all the images
On
are
the
flipped.
opposite side.
Yep.
On the
Right.
opposite side.
And is there any, I guess the question is there any reason why it couldn't be put further back on the house?
From my point of view, you all ought to move whatever you want to see.
So Max, I'm looking at the street view. I'm having a guess. This is the reason why they're looking at it on that side. The electric connection to the house, I'm looking at the street view.
That's
Granted,
correct.
it's 2018, but it is. The electric connection to the house is at the south west corner of the house, closest to the street.
Right.
I'm guessing that's why they want the connection
Well,
there, because it's
That's probably true, but if they're putting this on the other side of the house too, that's not a controlling factor.
that's true.
And if they have a really good reason for it other than convenience, then
So do you want to amend your motion to say that the certificate of appropriateness would not allow solar panels on the front gable side facing US 213, or Maryland 213, and recommend that the panel boxes be moved to the, or do you want them to the rear of the house, or do you want them on the north face of the house?
I think they're going to have to be on the side rear section of the house.
Yeah.
So you can make that as a recommendation. So recommending that
That would be a recommendation, yes.
recommendation that the panel boxes be moved to the rear of the dwelling.
Correct.
So one would be binding and the other one would be a recommendation.
Yes. I don't think we can be held to that one, but
Yep.
to push the equipment further back, I think would be.
Okay. Bill, do you understand that motion?
Yes.
Okay, just want
As
to make sure
far
that you're
as-
clear as staff.
As far back away from the street as possible is what I'm assuming.
Yes, that's correct. I think that's.
Thank you.
Nice. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Okay, calling a vote for the motion. Do I hear ayes?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. That is has been duly passed. Let me go back to the agenda here. Going back 1 second. Sorry, I'm just shifting between screens.
Would you care to address it or no?
I'm trying to go back to the agenda. Where did I find? There it is. Okay. Okay. General discussion, invitation to serve as a consulting party, Cypress Branch Dam Removal Project.
And this,
Bill, would you like to
our,
present
our,
this?
our associate planner, Mark Carper, is here to present to you all.
Yes,
Okay.
good evening, everybody.
Good
So Carla and I received a letter from the United States Department of Interior Fish and Wildlife Service. They're proposing to remove the Cypress Branch Dam near Millington. The purpose behind that, I believe, is described in one of the paragraphs, has to do with, I guess, restoration of that wildlife area and flow of the river. I don't know if it's tied to a particular species, but I think the purpose is for that reason. They're inviting us and the Historic Preservation Commission to participate, to consult in that particular removal. And basically, the dam has been determined, as they state here, eligible for listing in the National Register of Historic Places under Criterion A due to the significance in the historic district. As they go on to describe, believed to have been constructed in the 19th century, early 19th century, and it served purposes of operating the mills around Millington. So that's what we've been invited to do, and the purpose of this portion of this meeting is to discuss whether or not we, meaning collectively, would like to participate in that consultation.
Okay, and the invitation is from the state of Maryland because they're the property owner?
The letter is from the Wildlife, Fish and Wildlife Services.
For the state of Maryland, for the Department of Natural Resources?
Maryland Fishery Resources Offices is the one that sent it, yes.
Okay, so this is a recent state park. This farm was bought by the Department of Natural Resources.
Okay.
So I was not aware that it was an historic dam. I am familiar with the dam.
Well, they say that it's eligible for listing in National Register of Historic Places.
Mark, can
Yes.
you further describe exactly what they're removing here? I see a couple images, and it's not really clear on the diagram that they provided what they're removing.
It's not any clearer to me either, I'm afraid.
Okay. Once again, documents fail us.
Yeah, I assume that that big berm that you see in the first set of images is what they remove. I'm not sure in terms of the spillway. If they're proposing to remove the entirety of it, I think that's something that would be discussed during the consultation.
So there theoretically will be nothing left of the history of that.
That I don't know. They may just want to increase the water flow and allow for particular spaces for particular fish to swim and improve that ecosystem. It's unclear. So they may, I guess in theory, not have to deconstruct all of it.
Right. I mean, I can see taking out the spillway so it opens up that path.
Mm-hmm.
Seems to me it would not be necessary to move that entire earthen.
That would be a lot of earth to move, yep. So it may just be the spillway. It's unclear to me.
Well, this is just an invitation to participate, so conceivably, they're not looking for an answer. They're just looking for whether or not we would like to participate. And I'm guessing the reason for this is that they used land and water conservation funding to purchase the property from the national. That's federal funding utilized to purchase this this state park. I'm guessing that's the reason why it's coming to us
Right.
as a Section 106 review. I think we would be interested in participating in the process, and if they, I'm not exactly sure what they're planning, but Is everybody comfortable with that? Does anybody else have any other thoughts?
I would be interested in participating, sure.
Yeah.
It's about 3 miles from my house, so it's not very far. It's on my side of the county. So, do we need a formal motion or anything, Bill, for this, or?
I don't believe so. We were just looking for your instructions. Mark can respond and say, you're interested.
Okay.
Okay, I will do that.
Back to our. Let's try to get the right email. Okay. So, discussion of member appointments.
Yes, sir. And from your earlier note, I was going to say, we had a member resign. Don is his space is vacant, but now we'll have 2 vacancies. So I had wanted to
Just
talk.
confirm that.
Yeah, I will. I certainly will. But just wanted to ask you all, do you have, and you may not have at this meeting, but do you have folks that you could recommend to us? Unlike many of our citizen boards, this board requires expertise. And I'm not familiar with folks who might have that expertise. I imagine you would be, and you might have colleagues that you think would be interested in serving on the board. So I would love to hear from you all about that, because we'll need to go before county commissioners and fill those vacancies. And at the same time, Max, your term is ending on June 30th, and so is Biz's. So I think it's June 30th, but this year. So both your terms and Biz's terms are ending. I wanted to ascertain who's interested in continuing to serve. I know that Biz is interested in continuing to serve. So Max, are you interested?
Yes, I'll continue.
Okay, then I can prepare those 2 appointments, and I'll work with you all if you have some names to suggest to commissioners that they can review. And last but not least, I think there's, we talked a little bit last time, but sort of, not directly answered, but I think there's some notion that although Biz would like to continue to serve, I think she is interested in some succession for the chair. So, and I don't know if the members present want to talk about that, but I wanted to alert you all to that there may be, the next time we meet, there may be an election, and there may be a hope that someone will step into that position. So, Jeremy, you're doing a good job.
Jeremy wants it. I can see in his face.
I don't know that. Good heavens. In terms of a member to appoint, Jennifer, you work pretty closely with him, or you have anyway. And I know him. I went to college with him years ago. He was much younger than I was, but Darius Johnson.
Yeah, actually, Darius came to mind. He's presently in grad school.
For
working
historic preservation.
For historic preservation, and
He's in a master's program.
he has a vested interest right now in projects and working on documentation stuff. His own family had a home that was on the documentation list for myself.
Yeah.
So I don't know what his schedule looks like. He does travel for work, but I think he might be interested in at least considering it. I'd love to give him the option to opt out if he didn't want to.
Yeah, I have his. Let me just see if I have his cell phone number here. I'm not gonna call
If you
him during
don't,
the
I can
meeting.
give it to you. He's working on the Coleman project with us as well.
Yeah, I have his cell phone number, so I will text him or call him and seeing if he would be interested.
Okay.
I think he would be a good representative. He's a lifelong resident of Kent County and graduate of Washington College and currently in grad school for historic preservation.
And if we don't have a requirement for residency, he lives in Easton. So if we don't have,
Does he really? Oh, good heavens. Ooh.
I'll double check that for you all.
Yeah, I think we are. I think we went through this before. I think we're permitted one non-county resident or something like that. I seem to remember that.
I have
We're in business.
another architect friend. I don't know if he'd want another architect on the board.
Who's that, Max? Who did you have in mind, Max?
John Hutchinson.
Okay.
I think that would be valuable.
I know I think he sits on the Chestertown.
Historic
Commission.
Preservation Commission. Okay.
Would you reach out to him, Max?
I will, yes.
Thank you.
I'm trying to think of anybody else.
Do we have one more spot to fill? Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, we have two spots to fill, so I guess we probably do need to. Joan Horsey, is past president of the Historical Society. I know she does serve on the Board of Appeals. I think that may be a conflict. Is that correct, Bill?
I don't know if it would be a conflict, but she does serve on the Board of Appeals.
Okay. I don't know what the rules are for that. I can always ask her. She's getting up in age. She probably doesn't want to serve, but I can always ask her. She's written a number of books on Kent County history.
Jeremy, isn't Elizabeth also a member or a Kent County resident?
Watson?
Yes.
Yes, I believe she is. Chestertown resident.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Miss ma'am.
I don't know if she'd be interested, but I speak to her rather frequently these days for stuff. If there's an interest, I could ask.
Okay. Yeah.
I could also check with, if anybody's interested, with the college. They seem to be doing a lot of projects with all of us independently doing things. And if we're speaking of diversity, a lot of the names we brought up are people that we know, but we haven't actually gone out and found folks who are also in the field that we don't necessarily work with on a regular basis. And I can also check with them.
Yeah, like John Seidel would be a good person. Unfortunately, he and his wife are moving.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're in the archaeology field, but also a very important field of historic preservation. But yeah, I think we have a list here. Let's
Yeah,
perhaps,
that sounds great.
circle back and we can provide some guidance back to you, Bill.
Thank you.
Are you just going to provide any and all recommendations, or do we as a board need to recommend?
I would provide any and all. Anyone who's interested, I usually, there's a form that they fill out, very simple, just, says why they'd like to serve. I usually ask them for a resume because that helps commissioners.
Sure.
But right, commissioners go through all the interested parties.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Okay. And then we have staff reports.
Right.
Do you have any staff reports?
Anyone at the table have a staff report? I can just report that we are moving forward with the land use ordinance proposal. We're hoping that by the end of the summer, we'll have introduced a resolution that has an edited document to start the legislative process. So it would start with Planning Commission and Agricultural Advisory Commission, and once they make a recommendation, then it goes to county commissioners to go through the three-step legislative process. So basically what staff has been doing is we've been working on folding in all of the consultants' recommendations with all of the task force recommendations with the planning board's then successive recommendations on the task force's recommendations. So that's 3 sets of things. And of course, some of the recommendations are things like streamline all the processes, right? That short little sentence is months and months of work, but we're closing in on having at least a draft document that hopefully addresses all those things we've been asked to look at to start through that process. So we'll certainly keep you informed. And that's the biggest project. And Carla's working on another agricultural preservation cycle. So I believe there's 10
Good.
farms up this year.
Great.
And
Always good news.
any other big special projects that you guys can think of?
No.
Some of the big ones on the planning commission.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Will be coming up.
Yep, and there's if you haven't heard, there's a proposal for 2 warehouses off of Route 301 and the intersection of 291 by Everton Industrial. It's been well mentioned in the newspapers and in the Chesterton Spy. So, but that is at the they've submitted for, I believe, conceptual review, and they're working on their traffic study and other applications. The county commissioners are considering revising the zoning, the text of the zoning code to allow the height of specifically industrial buildings on a handful of, in 3 zoning districts in the Route 301 corridor to go from 45-foot max to 60-foot max in order to allow for what's essentially the modern standard of 40 feet of interior clear height for warehouses. So, thank you.
Okay. Um,
You've probably read about both of those in the paper by now, I would think, so.
all right. I deal with them on those sort of things on a pretty weekly basis.
Okay.
Getting to approve different industrial projects, that certainly is a standard. So, certainly understand that. Bill, I did want to bring up in terms of and ask for, it's not listed on the agenda, but in terms of follow-up on the granary,
Yes.
you know, from my understanding, the county is under an obligation that if the granary is demolished, they're going to have to come up with I believe it's $58,000. So they need to be aware of that.
Yep.
And that's not just $58,000. That's the demolition cost too. So I imagine the demolition costs are going to be anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 for a building of that size.
To the best of my
So-
knowledge, Jeremy, there has been no more discussion on that item. I think it's just on hold because of our budget constraints. I know that the building's been secured by fencing, so that it's,
Okay.
people who don't go into it, but I think it's just at a status quo at this point. It's my understanding. I mean, I could be wrong, but I haven't heard any other discussion. We
Okay.
sort of hit the Kerwin wall.
And I certainly understand
And
that,
Jeremy-
working in local government. But yes, Jennifer.
I do have a question on behalf of us. So I hear about the wall and I understand exactly what was just said about the budget, but this has been a conversation for decades.
Yeah,
So
and I
at
would,
least
yeah. Go ahead.
what do we do to? I don't want us to fall into the same trap that, and I'll say trap because it keeps getting pushed back, and then it gets left as the quiet project that sits until it needs to be brought up again. And my concern is, as a preservation commission, our first meeting was, what do we do to do our best due diligence on this building? And it may need to sit, but that's where it's gotten to the point it's at right now, which is, it is recoverable, but it gets more expensive every year we leave it sit. So
Yep.
is there something we can do to talk about a timeline to have a serious conversation about this building? I mean, we talked about
Yeah.
grants and things like that. What do we do to come up with an actual preservation plan for this building and activity to go after funds to make it possible to have a serious conversation about what's next?
Well,
Yeah, so
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I really want us to go back and, and make a formal request to the county commissioners that, they spend $10,000 with the ability to potentially defer $70,000 worth of expenses.
Yeah.
Once a stabilization plan is done, we can go out, just Pitt County Levy Court in Delaware just obtained $800,000 worth of funding for the Brecknock House in Camden, Delaware, for an historic house on a county park. Those are some of the things that we can be creative in terms of matching different sources of funding so that we're not, for one thing, you're not losing an historic resource, but two, the county isn't losing the money that
Yeah.
they've already put into the building.
Jeremy,
Um,
just repairing or replacing that roof would buy a lot of time on this building.
Yeah. So, So I don't know what the best avenue is, Bill, but I think I would like us to, and please reiterate to the county commissioners and to the county administrator. I think what the state is doing to the county is wrong, and I certainly understand their frustration. But I don't want them to be put into a corner where they're going to have to fork out $70,000, and you're just going to be left with a vacant piece of land and without a historic resource. I don't know if the residents of I don't know if that's the best service to the community.
Okay. I will certainly
Okay.
pass that on.
So, I mean, I want to reiterate to them that we are more than willing to do grant applications. The National Trust does have additional grant cycles. I think Bardish True's only once a year, but if I recall, Jennifer, I believe National Trust does do 3 grant cycles a year, and I don't know if we can. I might be able to talk to Nikki Van at the National Trust about if we could get something in to help get a stabilization plan done.
Yeah, and actually that that deadline, letter of intent is due for MHT for a non-capital grant on the 30th. So we could submit a letter of intent and then work on that for the next 30 days or so to get that in if that's something we want to do. And then I can check on the deadline for the national.
June the 30th is the letter of intent for MHT?
Yes, June 30th, just
Oof.
the letter of intent, and then we'll have about 45 days if we choose to apply for the grant. But at least we'll have the letter of intent in. That is required.
So Bill, can you email or speak with the county administrator tomorrow if we have the ability, if we're doing the grant writing, if we have the ability to go through the grant writing process, and if we are if we are considered, the county can make a decision whether or not to fund it if a match is required.
I can certainly ask. I mean, the budget was adopted on June 6th, so I'm not sure what the opportunities are for this fiscal year, but I can certainly ask Jeremy.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
and presently a lot of
Go ahead, Jennifer.
presently a lot of the matches are cash matches, but they can be swept
In kind.
kind matches, and there hasn't been a dollar amount reestablished for the to be. It's dollar for dollar, but they don't say it has to be cash dollar for dollar. So.
And National Trust is the same way. Nikki Van makes that very clear. The last presentation she's given that I've seen, I saw her give a presentation back at the National Main Street Conference. She made that exact point as well, that they've loosened their rules that in kind is permitted, which may have some additional opportunities. I certainly understand the county's budget predicament.
I mean, I don't know if you're aware, but I mean, they've literally eliminated positions. So, I mean, it's that serious. Fortunately, this year, all those positions were positions that didn't have a current employee in them.
Yes.
But they've
Right.
eliminated a number of positions in order to save money and meet I think it's $1.6 million requirement this year for Kerwin that was expected originally to be $600,000. So it was $1 million additional dollars, not anticipated.
And
So-
it's criminal behavior in my opinion, and that's not. And the county commissioners deserve a medal. I'll be the first to tell you that.
I'm sure it was
It's a
very difficult.
decision.
Yeah.
It is a very difficult situation. I just want to be clear that if the building comes down, the county's going to have to come up with $70,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
And for Jeremy and Bill, my question about this isn't so much to start begging the county commissioners for more money. It's to know that we have the ability, or if the authority is the right word, to go ahead and pursue its preservation through means not through the county, but exclusively. Does that make sense?
Can you
So I
repeat?
don't know that we even have permission to go about things. And
In other words, if I can rephrase, if there were no expense, if you all were able to do something that didn't cost the county any money, do you have the authority to move forward to do something to preserve the building? Is that what I'm hearing?
right now, that is what we're asking. So if we're able to find
Okay.
grants to do the things that we want to do, and while the county will have to sign off if there's a match of some sort, maybe small, do we have the authority to go ahead and do that? Because that's my concern right now. Is I feel like we're in limbo, that we have some ideas to go pursue, but not the authority to go do that. So
Right.
do we have that?
Right. I will certainly ask. My assumption from the budget process was if there isn't money budgeted for it, I mean, budget is
essentially the authority piece, but I will certainly ask for clarification.
Yeah, and certainly understand that. And I think what we do have and I think we have the opportunity to be able to piece together while matches are required. If you can prove that, you can use matches for each grant against one another. So a match from the National Trust can be used with a state match and can be used with, even if the county were to ask for a small congressional appropriation as part of the earmark process in the spring. Those matches can be used together so that the county's expense is very, very minimal. So.
Okay, I will look into it. Thank you.
I appreciate that, and certainly understand their difficulties. We're just trying to help them navigate that and not get them into trouble. And from my own perspective, I don't want them having to come up with $70,000 or $80,000 in 6 months if this building comes down.
Okay.
Yep.
All righty. Thank you all.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, is there anything else, Bill, that needs to be brought up or discussed?
Not that I'm aware of at the moment, sir.
Okay.
Make
Well, I
a motion
appreciate-
to adjourn.
Yep. You have a second? Melinda or Jennifer? Second.
Sorry, second.
Okay.
Second,
All right.
sorry, you call
All right. Do I hear ayes?
eyes.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody's kind attention for today. Have a good evening.
Yes. Thank you all very much.
You too.